Hi friends, today I think I'm taking an extreme step in creating awareness among Indian NRI community which has invested tons of money in Hyderabad real estate in past 9 to 10 years. The money was invested by reading a book which was scripted to make it interesting. Practically, the story had no essence, and the narrator told the story in such a way that thousands of Indian NRIs believed that story, which was half baked and totally fake. The story was scripted in such a way that you invest your hard earned money, and the persons who were in the government benefited privately. The money you invested in Hyderabad real estate was actually feeding the stomachs of greedy political billionaires and industrialists and real estate mafia. Practically, your money has no legal sanctity to grow. What I mean by legal sanctity means most of your money that you have invested through different means could not be extracted legally in Hyderabad real estate. You know what I'm telling to say or explain to you, that the color of money that you have invested was so intense that now if you try to extract that money in a plain white form, it is very difficult to extract that money. So, how did the Hyderabad real estate story start and end? The author who scripted this story has used all his skills and narrative power to trap thousands of Telugu NRIs, Indian NRIs, and global investors to believe a story called Growing Hyderabad or Hyderabad's Growth Story. Most of the NRIs, especially American NRIs, especially Telugu American NRIs, were trapped into a sinkhole where they were made to believe that the drone visuals and the area that were developed under the umbrella of so-called government was actually a plan hashed by real estate mafia, designed by real estate mafia to steal NRI's money. The problem with the NRIs was they were completely dependent on the story or the novel that was written by the real estate mafia itself. Politicians benefited immensely by the fake boom. The areas were demarcated, were singled out for development because in advance hundreds of acres of land at dirt cheap price was hijacked by politicians and the real estate mafia in advance. Real estate mafia knew the story in advance, the narrative in advance, and the conclusion in advance. So the construction industry knew everything in advance about the book that was written for them. But unfortunately, the NRI community were totally in dark about the novel which was written for the sake of your money. The book looked bulky, the narrative was world class, the story was fake, and the characters were very interesting. On the whole, conspiracy was hashed in the form of a story called Hyderabad Growth. Practically, NRIs were too confused to understand at what was going practically in Hyderabad, especially in real estate. The story they were seeing in social media and the mainstream media and the transactions that were happening at least for 200 and 300% premium did not arise a sense of doubt in the NRI community that how can a city grow 300% without any industrial or a proper economic background. The pace of growth of Hyderabad was surpassing its employment and economic capabilities. At one time, real estate sales or the value of real estate was so huge that it was almost equal to the state's budget. People were totally unaware of the color of money, type of money, and the pace of money which was being pumped into Hyderabad real estate. Everything was made to look rosy for NRIs. Local government knew very well that the prices were too inflated for Indian citizens. So they targeted NRI community, especially American NRIs, into believing the story of a rapid pace of growth of Hyderabad, irrespective of economic prospects of the state. Every question was bulldozed by drone visuals. Every question was silenced by registration numbers. Every question was laughed away, citing the history of Hyderabad. If you question the growth, if you question the timing, and if you question time which takes to make money in Hyderabad real estate, everything was compared to Kokapet, Jubilee Hills, Banjara Hills. The same narrative was cooked each and every time NRIs posed some questions on Hyderabad real estate. Every question had an absolutely stunning wrong answer. Every narrative was constructed in such a way that nobody could doubt the Hyderabad's pace of growth. The pace was fake, the modeling was perfect, the narrative was excellent and interesting. So naturally, NRI community could not afford to personally supervise their investments in Hyderabad. That was what you call a honey trap for NRIs. Thousands of agents, fake agents, who could narrate a different type of story from the same book for an interested NRI. The storytellers were legends. They were better than the authors. So the storytelling community, or often we call real estate brokers, could convince tons of NRIs that the Hyderabad is next New York of India, surpassing Gurgaon. The rate of return was also faked. A thousand flats apartment or a housing complex or a high rises complex. In those complexes, at least two or three initial transactions were faked to make NRI believe that the practical value of the property was on paper. They made sure they should show some evidence to NRI community that the pace of growth and the value has tripled in Hyderabad in short time without any proper logic. Even this logic attracted NRIs. City is growing at a rapid pace without logic means something we don't know that lot of people know. Most of the NRIs thought that they know a little about the secrets that were hiding under the table in Hyderabad. They knew nothing, but their investments were growing. That led a lot of NRIs to blindly invest in Hyderabad, and they were happy that they were making money without any logic. That was a coffin in the nail for the NRI community, where thousands of NRIs were trapped in the name of easy money. Real estate was practically overrunning, bypassing all investment norms. Even it was outpacing the stock market investments. Means the money was insanely coming into without any logic. Until the money was coming without any logic, people were unaware of the impending danger that Hyderabad real estate was facing from past 6 to 7 years. The cooked up story was well narrated and it was hit. It has become a hit in NRI community. Seeing the NRI community coming into India, investing tons of money in Hyderabad real estate, this boosted the morale of the sleeping millionaires in Hyderabad who were ready to invest but had seen the insane growth of Hyderabad in last 9 years. The natives of Hyderabad who are very rich were very subjective, were very practical and waiting in sidelines by not investing in the fake narrative that they knew that one day it will take toll on their hard-earned money. But in last 5 years, even this community has succumbed to the fake narrative of a narrative called Hyderabad growth. People knew nothing about growth. People knew nothing about the pace of growth and the logic of growth and the macro and microeconomic situation of Hyderabad. They were only interested in the growth of their money, the pace of returns. The danger has no meaning at all from the past 7 to 8 years. Danger was a joke that they frequently encountered while investing, but still they were making money. This story continued for 2 to 3 years. Everybody started making logicless money, or they called it smart money. The rate of return was outpacing stock market, fixed deposits, mutual funds, and various other investment modules. So the only option, easy option for an ordinary person to make money was real estate. The narrative was so great and they made to believe even the local millionaires that they were falling back. If you compare to NRIs, the NRIs who were sitting in some other country are making money, and the local millionaires were standing on sidelines and making nothing. So even local millionaires jumped in, boosting the real estate market to insane levels, where it was surpassing 400% premium to the normal commercial rates. But the beauty of this whole story is rents were the rumble strips in Hyderabad's real estate base. Rents were not growing. Tons of new properties were added into Hyderabad real estate. There were no takers for high rents. The 300 to 400% inflated housing market needed a much needed boost from the government so that people can buy properties at 300 to 400% extra markup. So roads were put into place. Several flyovers which were not needed were built in advance. You can imagine 20 to 30 years advance, and they were made to believe, common people were made to believe that government is planning in advance to make this city great. The metro, which last government called the lifeline of Hyderabad, is sitting on a 6,000 crore loss, and every day it is making 60 lakh rupees loss in its operations. Metro was called lifeline, and new lines were dug up so that the debt becomes unbearable. Every pillar was an opportunity for politicians The metro was a cash cow for L&T. Except the citizens of Hyderabad, everybody was making money out of this growth. A irritated common man saw an opportunity to end this mess called Telangana government's nexus with real estate mafia and 7 years of betrayal, and the value of their income was shrinking by every day. The legendary story is the person who was heading the government used to tease the normal middle class people of Hyderabad that Hyderabad is growing in such a pace that there is no place left for ordinary Hyderabadi people or a Telanganite to stay in Hyderabad. They have to get out of Hyderabad to make their ends meet. Hyderabad is not for ordinary Telangana or Hyderabadi native. Such was the pace of arrogance, the intensity of arrogance, that finally ordinary people have to take a call to end this narrative and tear this fake book into pieces. As soon as the election arrived, middle class had made up their mind that hook or crook, this fake narrative should end with this election. In spite of last government's all-out efforts to woo middle class and poor people into its trap of things, normal people could not or stopped believing the story that the last government narrated in the last minute of their survival. BRS government planned everything in advance. The narrative they cooked for 7 years could not save them. The way KCR teased middle class people about the Hyderabad real estate, and most of the people who were dreaming to buy a small house for themselves could not afford it. Finally, the people's verdict kicked out a fake narrative, a bubble government, a real estate mafia which took over a government and running it virtually. And the result was obvious. BRS could not muster the numbers in elections. The fake narrative was busted. They could maintain some pockets in Hyderabad and around Hyderabad. But these numbers could not form their government, could not save its future. Finally, new government arrived in the form of Congress. They too could not what we call eliminate the fake narrative that the Hyderabad has cooked for itself. They too joined the bandwagon. They have outpaced the promises that BRS gave. They narrated a fake narrative about the future of Telangana. Most of the reforms were at free of cost. Most of the reforms were distributed without any economic logic. And the action of Hydra and an initial phase of action has convinced a lot of people that something is there which is set to break the fake narrative of Hyderabad. And initially, Hydra did its job. A lot of properties were demolished, which were built on the fake narratives of the previous government. Tons of lakes were captured, tons of lakes were registered in fake names. Lot of high rises came up inside lakes. They were sold to innocent NRIs and global community. Even the local could not stand the taste of the curry that NRIs were enjoying. Even the locals joined. Finally, in the year 2025, how this book, which was scripted 9 years back, what is the script of the big book that was narrated 9 years back is totally different. NRIs are stunned, billionaires are stunned, politicians are stunned, neighboring states are stunned. The story was such an excellent trap that nobody could escape. The narrator was so confident. The narrator had complete faith that he could fool 99% of the people in Telangana and Hyderabad into believing his story that Hyderabad was growing. By the arrival of new government, things were getting transparent. Though the new government could not correct a lot of wrongs that were done in the previous government. But the situation was getting clear day by day. Finally, what we find going through that book is the narrative was fake, the growth was fake, the infrastructure was biased, the infrastructure fed politicians but not common public. Everything was debt ridden, everything lost logic, lacked logic, and finally, what we are seeing today is a Hyderabad which was built on a narrative called growth without any proper economic logical background. There was no backbone which could sustain Hyderabad in long term. Jobs were not created. Lands were sold by auction, that too fake auction. They jacked up prices and made people to believe that every piece of land that people owned in and around Hyderabad and Telangana could generate returns multifold if they keep faith in government. When the government's plan was busted, everything crumbled in front of their eyes. Now, what we see in Hyderabad is fake structures, fake stories, inflated prices, trapped NRIs, trapped millionaires, sitting with their assets, hoping for a cost to cost escape route where they get their money that they have invested in past 6 to 7 years. There is no growth now. as saying growth is subdued. No, the real estate of Hyderabad is falling rapidly, at least 20 to 30% per year. Internally, externally, the shell is so hard. The story, cooked up story, is so hard that is it is very difficult to real estate of Hyderabad to crumble in 1 or 2 years. It will take time. But the properties are not selling at that price. What that line means for people who have invested in Hyderabad real estate and who are ready to invest. That means the shell is so hard. It is impossible to break in 6 months to 1 year. But when it cracks, you got a spoiled egg inside. You cannot make anything out of that spoiled egg. The story is so rotten, so faked, so cooked up that even an intelligent person who has a real estate background, that is Mr. Revant Reddy, could not sustain such fake stories under his belt. Even he is stunned that where is growth? Where are the prices? Why my new government is unable to use this growth story to its advantage? Because the growth story was fake and the narrator is dead and the author is dead. Author has a different way of narrating the story, different way of convincing and fooling people that Mr. Revant Reddy could not understand. That's why he is facing problems now. I want each and every Telugu NRI and the NRI community should understand that your hard-earned money is trapped in Hyderabad real estate. And if you want to take out the money now, you may face a 30 to 40% shave in your wealth. And if you wait for another 10 years, 5 to 10 years, you may get the same amount of money that you have invested, the inflated value that you invested 7 years back. And that means whatever you invested 7 years back has got the same value after 7 years, after 5 to 10 years. So you have lost even the bank interest on your investment. That is the core reality. And if you try to invest into the new story that is being built up with a story called Fourth City, which was not properly presented or cooked to the NRI audience or local millionaires. That is a half-baked story that Congress is trying to cook. And now there is already a fake dish that is ready for consumption by the BRS government. So overall, the Hyderabad's growth story is in mess. I urge NRI community not to invest by listening to the stories that are freshly baked and cooked, so that you save your hard-earned money and invest in right assets in India. India is a growth story, it's okay. But Hyderabad is a cooked up story. I urge all NRI communities, including American Telugu NRIs, to listen to the inner voice that is being generated inside Hyderabad. Don't believe in drone visuals and digital platform visuals and start investing in Hyderabad. The narrative is rotten. The pace of reforms are standard. State is bankrupt. So if you want to invest into a bankrupt state, with a 300% escalation in real estate prices. It is up to you to decide your future. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, kindly subscribe to manage my channel and press a like button so that this truth can reach each and every NRI who is residing in America and all around the world. I hope you got the story right now, and stay safe is my message to the NRI community. Thank you.